They didn't destroy me in one moment. That would have been easier to understand. They did it slowly, by hurting me, comforting me, and then teaching me to need the same person who was breaking me. I didn't know it at the time, but that's how emotional control really works. I used to think manipulation looked obvious. I thought it would feel like pressure, like threats, like someone screaming in your face, demanding control. But the worst manipulation I ever experienced didn't look like that at all. It looked like love, attention, intensity. It looked like someone who understood me better than anyone else ever had. And that's why I didn't run. Because when someone hurts you and then becomes the only person who can make the pain stop, your brain stops calling it danger. It starts calling it attachment. And that's exactly what happened to me. At the beginning, they were everything I didn't know I was looking for. They listened in a way that made me feel seen, not just heard, studied. They remembered small details, things I forgot I'd even said. The kind of coffee I liked when I was stressed, the songs I played when I couldn't sleep, the way my voice changed when I was pretending to be okay. At first, it felt romantic. Now I know it was data collection. They weren't just getting close to me. They were learning how to control me. And the scary part? I helped them do it. When we first met, I was in a bad place emotionally. Not broken exactly, just tired. Tired of feeling like I had to be easy to love. Tired of pretending I didn't need reassurance. Tired of giving people the calm, edited version of myself because I was afraid the full version would be too much. And then they came in and made me feel like none of that was a problem. They said things no one had ever said to me before. You don't have to hide with me. I can handle the real you. I'm not going anywhere. That last line became important later, because people who plan to control you love making promises early. They create emotional safety before they start taking it away. That's the trap. If someone hurts you before they've earned your trust, you leave. But if they build themselves into your nervous system first, you stay far longer than you should. In the beginning, they were warm, consistent, almost perfect. They texted good morning every day, called at night, checked in when I seemed distant. They made me feel chosen. And when you've been emotionally overlooked for a long time, being chosen can feel dangerously close to being saved. That was my first mistake. I confused intensity with safety. The change didn't happen all at once. That's what people don't understand. No one wakes up in a manipulative dynamic and says, "Perfect. This seems unhealthy. I'll stay." No. It starts with tiny moments that feel too small to name. The first time they hurt me, it was so subtle I almost felt guilty for noticing. We had plans one night. I was looking forward to it all day. I got dressed, got ready, checked my phone every few minutes. And then, nothing. Hours passed. No message, no call. When they finally replied, it was cold. "Why are you acting so intense?" "I was busy." "You're making this a bigger deal than it is." I remember staring at my screen, feeling embarrassed. Embarrassed, not angry, not confused. Embarrassed. Because somehow, within one conversation, I went from someone who got ignored to someone who felt unreasonable for caring. That's one of the first signs of manipulation. They injure you, and then make you feel like your reaction is the problem. So instead of asking, "Why did they do that?" you ask, "Why am I so sensitive?" And once that shift happens, control gets easier. Because now they don't have to defend their behavior. You'll do it for them. After that night, something changed in me. I became more careful, more measured. I started watching my words before I sent them, reading old messages to figure out what version of me they liked best, trying to predict what would make them warm again. And that's when the cycle started. They would pull away, then come back sweeter than ever. One day, I was too needy. The next day, I was the only person who really understood them. One night, they'd disappear and leave me spiraling. The next, they'd show up with the exact words I needed to hear. "I'm sorry. I've just been overwhelmed. You matter to me. I don't want to lose you." And every time they came back, I felt relief so intense it almost felt like love. But it wasn't love. It was conditioning. That's what intermittent reinforcement does. When affection becomes unpredictable, your brain starts chasing it harder. You stop feeling secure, so every small moment of kindness feels bigger than it really is. A normal message feels like proof. A simple compliment feels like healing. Basic decency feels like devotion, because your standards quietly shift from "how should I be treated" to "how do I get the good version of them back?" That's how they make you need them, not by loving you consistently, by starving you just enough that crumbs start feeling like a feast. I didn't notice how much of myself I was losing until my life started reorganizing around their moods. My mornings depended on whether they texted first. My confidence depended on how they sounded on the phone. My entire emotional state could be changed by one cold sentence. And the worst part was, I knew something felt wrong. I knew it. There were nights I would sit on the edge of my bed, phone in my hand, telling myself this wasn't normal. That if someone cared about me, I shouldn't feel this anxious all the time. I shouldn't have to earn softness. I shouldn't feel afraid of silence. But then they'd come back. Always at the exact moment I was about to detach. And they were so good at it. They knew when I was pulling away, even before I said anything. Suddenly they became gentle again, attentive, vulnerable, deep. They'd tell me about their trauma, their fears, how everyone leaves them, how hard it was for them to trust. And just like that, my pain got replaced by compassion. That's another dark pattern manipulators use. When accountability is close, they shift into vulnerability. Now you're not dealing with the hurt they caused. You're comforting them for the reasons they caused it. It's emotional redirection. And it works terrifyingly well on empathetic people, especially if you already believe love means understanding people through their worst behavior. So I stayed. I stayed because I thought patience would fix it. I stayed because I thought consistency from me would create consistency in them. I stayed because I believed the version of them I saw in the beginning was the real one. It wasn't. The beginning was the bait. The confusion was the system. Here's the part that really messed me up. I didn't just become attached to them. I became attached to the relief. That's what I didn't understand back then. I wasn't addicted to the pain. I was addicted to the moment it stopped. The apology, the affection after distance, the tenderness after cruelty. That emotional swing creates a powerful bond, because your nervous system starts linking the person who hurts you with the person who soothes you. Same face, same voice, same hands. So the danger and the comfort become impossible to separate. That's why people outside the situation never get it. They say, "Why didn't you just leave?" Because leaving the person hurting you also means leaving the person your body has been trained to run to for relief. And when those are the same person, clarity becomes war. The moment everything changed wasn't dramatic. There was no screaming match, no giant betrayal, no cinematic ending. It was something quieter. And somehow, worse. I was going through a hard week. I told them I wasn't okay. Not casually, not vaguely. I told them clearly. I needed support. I needed kindness. I needed them not to turn everything into a test. They read the message, didn't respond for hours. Then finally they sent, "I can't do this when you're like this. You always make everything heavy. Maybe you need too much." I read that message over and over. maybe you need too much. And something in me just stopped. Not because it was the worst thing they'd ever said. It wasn't. It was because I realized I had spent months shrinking myself to keep access to their affection. And even then, it was never enough. That's when I saw the truth. The goal was never peace. The goal was dependence. Because if I stayed insecure, I stayed attached. If I kept doubting myself, I kept looking to them for clarity. If I felt constantly off balance, they stayed in control. My pain wasn't an accident in the relationship. It was part of the structure. That realization hit me like cold water. Everything suddenly connected. The hot and cold behavior, the confusion, the guilt. The way every conversation somehow ended with me apologizing. The way my emotional needs were treated like flaws, unless meeting those needs benefited them. It wasn't random. It was training. They hurt me, then taught me to need them more every time they stopped. I wish I could say I left immediately after that. I didn't. That's another thing people don't talk about enough. Realizing you're being manipulated and emotionally escaping it are not the same thing. Your mind can understand the pattern long before your body stops craving the person. So yes, I saw it. But I still checked my phone, still reread old messages, still felt that pull when they came back soft again. That's how deep it goes. Manipulation doesn't just affect your thoughts. It gets into your habits, your chemistry, your expectations of love. Leaving wasn't one decision. It was a series of decisions. Not replying right away. Not explaining myself for the 100th time. Not chasing closure from the person who created the confusion. Not mistaking their return for change. And slowly, something strange started happening. The silence that used to terrify me got quieter. My chest stopped tightening every time my phone lit up. I started sleeping better, thinking clearer. I started hearing my own thoughts again. That's when I realized how much of me had gone missing. Manipulative people don't always steal your freedom in obvious ways. Sometimes they steal your ability to trust your own mind, your own reactions, your own needs. They make you feel like your pain is inconvenient, your boundaries are aggression, and your instincts are overreactions. Until one day, you don't know whether you're asking for too much or just asking the wrong person. And for me, healing began with that distinction. I wasn't hard to love. I was just easy to control because I kept giving chances to someone who benefited from my confusion. That truth hurt, but it also set me free. If someone hurts you, then comforts you, then hurts you again, pay attention. Because that cycle can create one of the strongest emotional dependencies there is. It's not always loud. It's not always intentional in the way people imagine. But the effect is real. This is how emotional conditioning works. First, they create connection. Then they introduce pain, distance, criticism, or instability. Then they return with relief. Your brain learns that suffering is part of getting closeness. So instead of leaving the source of pain, you chase the next moment of relief. That's why toxic dynamics can feel so addictive, not because they're deeper than healthy love, but because they keep your nervous system trapped in survival mode. Healthy love doesn't confuse you into attachment. It doesn't make you earn reassurance. It doesn't punish you for having needs. And the people who truly care about you do not need to weaken you in order to keep you close. The moment someone's affection only appears after they've hurt you, you are not being loved. You are being trained. I still think about how close I came to believing that was normal, how easily pain can disguise itself as passion, how quickly inconsistency can make you grateful for the bare minimum, how dangerous it is when someone becomes both the wound and the bandage. That experience taught me something I'll never forget. The person who keeps breaking you is not the person meant to heal you. And sometimes the hardest part of escaping manipulation is accepting that the comfort you miss was part of the control. So if you're in something right now that feels confusing, if you keep getting hurt, then pulled back in by small moments of tenderness, listen to that discomfort. Confusion is not chemistry. Emotional exhaustion is not love. And needing someone more after they hurt you doesn't mean the bond is real. Sometimes it just means the conditioning worked. If this story felt a little too real, that's exactly why you need to stay aware. Subscribe for more stories and psychology like this, because most people don't realize they're being manipulated until the damage is already done. And in the comments, tell me this: what's more dangerous, the person who hurts you, or the person who makes you believe you need them after?